Now today we're talking about our Reinvest in Rural Illinois initiative. The same thing, we want to help grow our rural economies. We know that there are towns and communities that are struggling throughout this state, and although we can't do everything for them, we're going to do everything that we can. I tell people that I am the chief banker for the state of Illinois, but we do not own a state bank. We partner with banks that are already out there, providing services to their communities, that already have relationships their lenders have with their customers, and we want to supply capital to those institutions to make sure that farmers and the rural Illinoisans can invest in themselves. So our Invest in Rural Illinois program identifies $500 million for small businesses to help communities struggling with unemployment, poverty, or large-scale business closings. It's designed to invest in people who want to invest in themselves. Today, too many of our neighbors still struggle years after the recession has ended. Each of us here today knows a business owner working hard to make payroll, a couple trying to save enough money to buy their first home, a family farmer with a vision to expand without the means to do so. And we think this is where investing in rural Illinois can help. The $500 million will flow through local banking institutions to help individuals obtain loans at below market rates. Working with financial institutions throughout the state, we will put money in the hands of people who live and work in rural Illinois. In turn, these investments will bring hope, prosperity, and jobs to rural economies across our state. Investing in our state's rural communities is especially important to me for the reasons I said. I grew up in a small town. The $500 million program will fund the newly developed Community Uplift Program. The program provides money to lending institutions specifically to fund business growth or expansion. The Finally Home program supports home buyers who might not qualify for additional mortgage product. And the bank capitalization will support the already popular Ag Invest programs that helps family farmers. That is why I've worked with local leaders to create Invest in Rural Illinois, leaders like those standing with me here today. First, I want to turn the microphone over to Matt Difanis, who's the president of Illinois REALTORS.
Right.
Matt.
So the treasurer outlined some of the challenges that folks in rural parts of the state face when it comes to qualifying for home purchases. There are lots of economic challenges. There have been lots of job losses over the years. So you look at the housing where quality housing is scarce. You look at a high cost of housing relative to often modest incomes in these rural areas, and you end up with a lot of challenges to mortgage qualification. And the program, the Finally Home program that the treasurer just mentioned, is designed to micro-target exclusively those folks who, but for this assistance, would not qualify for a home purchase. So it is really micro-targeted to make the greatest possible difference, and I would also say to make the most efficient use of the dollars that are being infused into this program. We're also excited that, as the treasurer said, this is done via private sector lenders all up and down the state. So the Finally Home program is an important part of the treasurer's Invest in Rural Illinois initiative, and the Illinois Realtors are huge fans. We think this is a crucial measure toward keeping Illinois' rural communities both livable and vibrant. And we thank the treasurer and the staff on the treasurer's office for being able to do the research to sort of reignite this program. So on behalf of 48,000 realtors up and down this big, beautiful state, we're big fans of the program, and we look forward to doing everything that we can to trumpet it and cheerlead it across the state. Thank you, Treasurer.
Matt, thank you very much. So before I served as a state treasurer, I also served in the Illinois State Senate, where I worked very closely with the Illinois Association of Realtors. They were great partners then. I look forward to working with you again as well. So,
Can I ask a question of Matt, if you wouldn't mind
Sure.
stepping to the podium?
I don't mind handing it to him as long as he nods.
Very brave.
Yeah.
What has been your observations in your particular line of work about the need for this type of program? Or are you seeing people just constantly saying, man, I'd like to get a mortgage, but I just can't for these reasons?
So I use the term micro-targeted to talk about the criteria for this particular infusion of funding capital. And so there's a but-for requirement, which is to say that the capital for this particular program will not be used except in cases where a borrower qualifies for a home loan almost, and but for this particular infusion and this particular resource wouldn't be able to get into a home, but where, for example, their credit score is adequately high, but they're lacking down payment assistance or whatever other mechanisms this particular program offers. Now, I'm president of a 48,000 member statewide trade organization, but I am a native of Champaign County, and as the treasurer is saying, since it's his home county too, we have this unique dichotomy of literally the densest population core near the university campus, and then very, very, very low density rural communities. And I have colleagues that are sitting in the room today that can all attest to rural transactions where all of the sorts of challenges that I articulated and that the treasurer articulated stand in the way of getting folks into homes. And that home ownership and that wealth generation engine that the treasurer referenced, when you think about that in these small towns, that can have a huge impact when you're talking about very small and sometimes isolated economies and small population centers. So programs like this are critically important. One other way to think of it is when you're looking at some of the rural communities that are commutable to larger cities like Danville or Champaign-Urbana, you'll find that a big part of what keeps those small towns churning is the availability of rural specific funding mechanisms to get people in. So there's a variety of programs that target specifically these rural communities, and if it worked for programs like that, I think you would see some significantly increased economic challenges. And instead, we're making efficient use of an affordable housing stock in communities that have long and proud histories and trying to keep those communities vibrant.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that we're not trying to become Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. We're not trying to grow the Illinois Treasurer's Office to become the mortgage provider for the state of Illinois, but to help fill in those gaps where we see that crack, where there is someone who might fall through the netting. We want to be there to help out as well. So, as I said, we work with banks. We work with associations to do this, but we have other partners out there as well, and I would be remiss, and I am for not pointing out earlier, the USDA has a lot of programs to help out rural Illinois, rural America. And we are able to accomplish more by working together with agencies like USDA, by working with bankers throughout the state of Illinois. What we hope to do is to leverage those relationships, their programs, to provide everything that rural Illinois needs.